Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and today I'm going to be doing another one of my RuPaul's Drag Race TBRs. Now I've actually completed it, so I'm going to take you through the books that I chose, and then I'm also going to pick my next queen and books to go for her for the next queen. Oh, my brain's not working. I'm going to pick the next queen and the books that she is going to have to read, or I'm going to have to read, at the end of this video. So, the queen that I picked this time was Latrice Royale, Big is Beautiful, and I wanted to read a book with a plus size main character, and so thankfully I had this one on my shelf, which is 40 Love by Olivia Dade. And this has now fully thrown me into Olivia's stratosphere of writing, because I absolutely adore her writing style. This was such a refreshing read in terms of reading about a grown-up romance. There was very little drama in this, there was lots of honest conversation, and it really helped you to read a story where real people are going through real struggles, and there's real sort of lives and stakes and relationships and career on the line, and there was just some real honest conversations going on about it. So discussed in here, there was age gaps and overweight representation. There was a sex scene where she was on her period, which wasn't as yucky as I was thinking it was going to be. Not one that I had on my bucket list of things to read about. All in all, I really enjoyed this. It was a good read, and I'd say it was on the medium of raunch factor. Now I've told you my reasons for liking it and things in it, let me just tell you about the plot. So Tess is a principal of a high school, and she has gone on holiday with her friend to take a bit of a break, but she's having a bit of a working holiday. She's going to have to do a little bit of work as well, because actually no, I think she's the deputy head. She's the deputy head and she wants to be the head, and so the work she's doing on their vacation with her friend, her and her friend have come away together, is to try and get herself the position of the head, because the head's leaving. And at the very start of the book, the very first pages, she's gone for this early morning swim and she has lost her swimming costume, and so she is thinking what to do. She's worried because there's children about to come in the water that she can see, and she's not really sure how to do this. Her friend hasn't surfaced yet. Her friend has already met someone on the holiday. They've been there, I think, for sort of a few days maybe, or a day or so, and so she's really in a bit of a quandary here, and she ends up flagging down this man to come and save her. She doesn't realise that he is the tennis pro at the resort they're staying at, or that he used to be a famous tennis player. So that is sort of quite a funny beginning for the two of them, and yeah, it's an interesting start, and then the story really progresses from there. And obviously there's going to be a relationship, but it has its ups and downs, but it certainly felt yeah, more refreshing than some of the ones you read. Some of the ones you read, I find myself just rolling my eyes or shouting at the book because it's just so stupid, and a little bit of conversation would have worked it out. But in this one, the conversation is there, which I really appreciate. So I gave this one 4 stars. Okay, so then I picked The Challenge, which was comedy, a book that you think will make you laugh. I didn't like the first book in this series, so I DNF'd it. The second book I thought was brilliant and I laughed. This one I wanted to laugh too. I thought it would make me laugh, so I picked it up, and that is Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. I'd initially picked this one up, A, because I'd liked book 2, but also because I'd heard that it had an autistic main character, and that's something that I'm really interested in reading about, and I wasn't disappointed. This book is brilliant. It had a really great sense of humour, and our characters were just so fun to watch, getting to know each other and the things that they did. They both are on the autistic spectrum, for sure, and they just had such a wonderful relationship. From our main character, who Eve is the last sort of sister left at home. Her parents are quite fed up. She's flitted from job to job. She never really sort of stays at a job, even though she's quite good at them. They don't seem to understand, and she feels like she is just picked up and dropped quite a lot by friends. You know, friends call her when they need something, and then once they've got it, they don't really contact her again, and she feels yeah, I don't think at the point at the beginning of this book she actually feels sort of let down by that. She just sort of takes it on board that that's just sort of a thing. But her parents sit her down, they have some stern words, they tell her she needs to find a job, she needs to move out, they give her a time scale, she gets very angry and leaves, and just randomly ends up in this sort of tiny hamlety type town and ends up going to a local B&B, noticing that they need a chef and applying for the job. So one of the best bits at the beginning, she's in the job interview and he's asking you know, what she knows about the area and what she picked, and she doesn't know anything because she just sort of happened across it. So that was interesting. So I really enjoyed this one. It was funny and heartwarming, and I loved the strict organisation of our male main character Jacob. He reminds me very much of myself, and yeah, I thought that it was a really good book and I really enjoyed it, so I gave it 4 stars. Next up, I had picked category is black and white drama, and for that I wanted to read one of my Black Lives Matter TBR books, and I'd had this one on the back burner. I'd sort of picked it up a little bit and not really got stuck in, and I wanted to get to that finally, and it was A Knock at Midnight by Brittany K. Barnett. So what this book does is it highlights so many flaws in the US law system, but it also shows the resilience and determination of those in prison, as well as Brittany and people like her who are working tirelessly to free them and to gain them clemency. What this book does really well is exactly what Britt says she does in real life when pulling together a clemency document. It really shows you and tells you the real lives of the people behind bars, and how they ended up where they were. And often you know, there's the heavy hitters in the drug business who get these much shorter sentences than these people who actually haven't touched drugs in years, or haven't even been dealing, or haven't been caught with anything, and yet they end up with these life sentences. So through this book we get to know a number of cases that she's worked on, as well as some organisations that she's founded. And as I say, what I really liked about this is that we start off learning Brittany's story, because Brittany her mother was behind bars for a certain number of years, and we learn about the lead up to that, the lead up to her mother getting arrested on drug charges, and how that affected her from the other side as a family member, as a daughter. And then it also highlights when she goes to law school to be a corporate lawyer, she wants to work in sort of big businesses as a lawyer. She takes a course because she wants to find out more about criminal law, because she comes across this article about Sharonda Jones in the library, and she feels like she just wants to know more about this, and she reaches out to Sharonda. And Sharonda at this point has been in jail for quite a long time. I think it's 10 years when her and Brittany meet, and she's quite loath to make conversation or to talk really, because she's been let down so heinously before, but she does end up allowing Brittany to come in. They form a friendship, and Brittany works tirelessly to get clemency for Sharonda. And throughout this we then learn about Sharonda's story and how she ended up where she was. And then we also have some other stories in here, some other I hate to call them stories really, because they're not stories, they're real life, people's real lives. We follow the real lives of other people and how they ended up where they were, and Brittany then takes them on as clients. So we're following not only Brittany's sort of story of childhood and also her story of her career, but also we're following the stories of these people that she is helping and trying to get free. And it was just so powerful. It was really, really powerful. About halfway through there was multiple moments after that I just couldn't help but cry, and I just felt really angry and sad for these poor people who are tied up in this legal system that they can't get out of. You know, there's judges that there's a High Court judge that has resigned because he disagrees. He didn't want to sentence this man to life imprisonment on 16 counts of life, but his hands were tied by the laws that were brought in. I don't know enough about the US system to know too much about it, but I have read a little bit more about this sort of the US war on drugs, and when all these sentences were brought in, this sort of 100 to 1 sentence. And I just think it's horrendous. And although they're trying their best, or people are trying to get these sentences changed, and there has been a lot of change, a lot of them weren't, I think it's called retroactive, where if you were sentenced before, it can't overturn the sentence. And so these people that were sentenced for like life in prison, had they been sentenced now, they would only get 6-7 years, if that, but they are still going to be doing life because the sentences aren't retroactive. I think that's what it is. There's so much in here. It's such a wonderful book. So it's no surprise here that this was, I think, just my second 5-star read of the year. I thought it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant. I think everybody should read it. So 5 stars. So Latrice is doing pretty well. So far she had 5 and 2 4s. So what does that make? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And so there was just The Judge. For The Judge, I picked RuPaul Don't Fuck It Up by an author you loved. And so I picked up Southern Storms by Brittany C. Cherry because I love her books. I've really been enjoying her over the last year. Excuse me. And so I had been gifted one of these as one of my monthly books from Tracy or Janet, I can't remember who, and I wanted to pick it up sort of sooner rather than later. I really enjoyed this one. It felt less like a Sexy Times romance and more of a women's fiction story. There was a lot less Sexy Times in here. I did like the slow flashbacks and the slow reveals of the past of what happened to Jax, what happened to Jack's mum. I felt the characters were fully realised, and it was nice to see that they weren't magically fixed by each other's love, which I think is a really problematic trope in books, where they fall in love and instantly all of their problems disappear and all their mental health problems disappear and everything is sunshine and roses and love cures all, because that's just not the case. I mean, you can still love someone and still feel depressed, or still have you know, issues with food or whatever it may be. So I thought that was a really really brilliant to see in a book. Yeah, I really like this author. So basically our main character at the beginning is chucked out of the house by her husband. We find out pretty early on that something has happened, and her daughter has died, and her daughter's quite young. I think she was 5 or 6, and she has died as well as her parents. And she's still grieving, and her husband isn't having any of it. He says she embarrasses him at work functions, and he's had enough of her grieving and she needs to get over it now, which makes me so angry. But just to add insult to injury, he kicks her out, and so she goes to stay in her sister and her sister's husband's sort of home that they've been flipping. I think they're sort of bought this home and they've been doing it up, and they say that she can go and stay there. So she goes to stay there, and she comes, it's a very small town, and she comes across this man who everyone is horrible to, no one really likes, and he's very angry, and he's taking on this weight of this secret that he doesn't share with her, but there's something that's happened that he's holding on to, and it makes him quite grumpy, and he's not interested in people, and people aren't kind to him either, because his dad's not very kind, and because of sort of historical things, and so he's really like shunned by everyone. And yet she slowly starts to unpeel the layers and see the things that he does without questioning or without asking for thanks, and there slowly becomes this relationship formed between the two of them, and I really did enjoy this. I thought it was good. I would have liked a bit more Sexy Times, but you know, I think that's mainly because I didn't know what I was going into. I thought I was going into that type of book. I mean, look at the cover, but it wasn't, and that was fine. And once I got past that, I did really enjoy it, so I gave this one 4 stars, which means that Latrice Royale, Shantae, you stay. So Latrice gets to stay. She'll go in my envelope of ones that have got to stay, which eventually, when I get through all my queens, I'll be able to do an all-stars series to narrow it down to a final winner. But for now, let's pick the next queen and the books to go with her challenges. Okay, it's getting light on the ground now. I've only got 4 queens left to do, so I'm not looking. I'm gonna pick this one. Oh, Jujubee, Asian Queen, a book with an Asian main character or author. Okay, so for that prompt, I'm going to pick up The Bride Test by Helen Huang. Helen Huang has written a book with a Vietnamese character, Kai Diep, and I picked this one up because it's going to be also on a recommendations video of, well, depending on how good it is, of autistic characters and main characters, because I believe the main character in here has autism, and Helen Huang also has autism. I think she was diagnosed in 2016, and so she is writing this in own voices, although obviously a woman and he is a man, and I think this is about the main character's mum gets fed up with his lack of relationship status and goes off to Vietnam to get him a bride. So I shall be reading that for Jujubee. Okay, let's pick the challenge. Okay, I've got my challenge cards here. I'm gonna pick this one. This one is a makeover someone else picks. So hold on while I send a photo of some books to normally I get my husband or my dog to pick, but I can't because they're not here. I'm home alone. So I will send a photo of this to my husband and ask him to pick for me. In fact, I'll put him on loudspeaker and we can hear him.
Hello.
Hi, don't swear, you're on camera. I've just picked a challenge for my new drag queen at TBR, and I need someone to pick a book for me. So I'm going to tell you 5 books and I want you to pick the one you think sounds most interesting.
Okay.
Okay, so Love in Catalina Cove, Life's Too Short, Bringing Down the Duke, Not the Girl You Marry, or The Locker Room.
Oh my god, they all sound so good.
Stop being sarcastic.
It's a tough one. I quite like the sound of Bringing Down the Duke, but I'm going to go with the Catalina wine mixer.
You mean Love in Catalina Cove?
Yep, that's what I said.
Okay, thank you, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so my husband has picked Love in Catalina Cove by Brenda Jackson. This is a book that's also on my TBR for the Chick Lit-a-thon, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. It says, in the wake of a devastating teen pregnancy that left her childless and heartbroken, Vashiti Al-Sindor left Catalina Cove, Louisiana with no plans to return. Now over a decade later, she reluctantly finds herself back in her hometown, inheriting her aunt's B&B. I think this is going to be really good, and one of those sort of heartwarming books. I love the setting for this. In fact, that's why I picked it for Chick Lit-a-thon, because I love the setting of by the beach, and I really like to go to Catalina Cove or Louisiana. So yes, this one for challenge. Okay, next one is category is. I'm going to pick this one. Oh, Animal Kingdom Couture animal on the cover. Okay, actually that was fairly easy because I have this one on my shelf, which is The Beast Warrior by Nihoko Uwahashi. This is a middle grade book. It's the second in a series. It's the sequel to The Beast Player, which was one of the only books, there wasn't many books last year that I gave 5 stars. I can't wait to read this. It is a bit of a biggie. It's over 600 pages, but I remember last time just not being able to put it down, so I'm going to pick this one up for animal on the cover, because as you can see, there is one of our beasts on the cover. Yes. Okay, and then the final for now is to pick my judge. There's only 4 judges, so it could be anyone. I've got my eyes shut. I'm going to go with this one. Oh, it's Ross Matthews, Ross the Intern, a new to you author. Let me find one and I'll come back. Okay, for new to you author, I'm going to go for this book I picked up recently. It's called Some Kids I Taught and What They Taught Me by Kate Clanchy. This is a non-fiction book written by a teacher, and it says in this book she invites you to meet some of the kids she's taught in her 30-year career. It's been blurbed by all sorts of different people. The Sunday Times said it was one of the most uplifting books you'll ever read. Prue Leaf said the most inspiring book. This should be a compulsory set text for everyone in the Department of Education, from the Secretary of State down. I work in education, so I'd like to read this and I think it will be good. Yes, so that is Ross the Intern. So that is my 4 books. I will come back to you in another video when I've read them and let you know my thoughts. And we're nearing the end of this series, finally. So yeah, let's see how we get on. Anyway, that's it from me, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.